Whoa. Before you buy those cat ears, those vampire fangs, or the Buster Sword to complete your Halloween costume on Amazon, make sure you're going to AAApodcast.com to use our Amazon affiliates links. Doing this really doesn't get you anything except the satisfaction of stealing from big corporations and giving it to the hands of these poor, fragile, weak-willed podcasters. And if you do it, we really would appreciate it. So complete your Halloween look by using the AAAAAL or Anime Addicts Anonymous Amazon affiliates link, and stay spooky. Now, let's get to the show.
Get ready! You're about to listen to the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAApodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 600, and I don't know what I'm doing because there's too much stuff on my screen because I don't do this. 649 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast, the only anime podcast where we try to make your anime addiction worse. My name is Mason. I'm running the ship into the ground on stage one. With me, flaring up a bit, putting on some sweet ass decorations is Caroline. How's it going?
Yeah, I got a ghost necklace and it lights up, but I don't know if you can really see
it's
that.
Coming through.
Yeah, though maybe I should take it off because I feel like it's just gonna click clack against my buttons, and that it goes faster. The blinking goes faster.
The intensity.
Wow.
It's like that scene from Willy Wonka.
Cause an epileptic shock, probably.
It's getting faster.
But yes, so I am very excited for the Halloween season. I got my apple cider here. I got a candle here. I have a succulent here because I just got it 30% off for the office that I just got without any windows. So yeah, I'm getting a lamp for this little baby here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Heck yes. We love to hear it. And welcome.
We talked all about it on Hobby Addicts.
Which was a grand old time. This is where you can support us by giving us money and hearing bonus podcast content to fill your days, especially winter's coming around the corner. I know we don't want to talk about it, but you're going to be lonely without that extra content. So we really encourage you to check that out, as well as check out our Twitch, where we do this whole podcast thing live every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you can see our beautiful faces and Carolyn's succulents and fancy necklaces and all that good stuff. Well, we have a Twitter, we have a TikTok, we have a Facebook. We recommend checking all that out. But what we really recommend, more than life itself, besides going to AAApodcast.com for all of your needs, is go to the Discord. Because really, that's the place to be. And I know we've tried to sell you on it in the past with like very weak, I'll say it honestly, motivations. We've been like, oh, it's a community of like-minded anime addicts. You can talk about like the latest shows and give recommendations. We have trivia nights. We have anime music quizzes. We have watch parties. We have anime clubs. We post memes. We share music, engage in debate and degenerate betting. And you can provide podcast feedback and give us topic ideas. All of that nonsense, bogus, baloney. Let me sell you on why you need to go to the Discord. If you go there right now, you can see multiple pictures and video of Mitsugi in full Sailor Scout uniform. I'm talking heels. I'm talking a disruptive lack of pants. I'm talking the whole shebang. And man, he goes hard in the paint. So
he has better legs than I do. It's really upsetting.
It's intense. And if you are like, I think I'm just morbidly curious enough to check that out, the Discord is your place to do that. So,
but I don't know if I can believe that he stayed in red heels all night long. I don't know if I can believe that he was able to do that. because I can't wear heels, and I've actually tried to wear them. I've actually tried to practice wearing them. This man's, he isn't a heel wearer, so I highly doubt that he was keeping them on for that long. But
Don't doubt his motivation. He's a stubborn fellow. He needs to tell me
if he was able to, and I'm waiting on that response.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yes.
So, with that, what are we doing in this episode today? Besides also telling you and chilling out the wazoo to check out supporttheaddicts.com. It's our Amazon affiliates link. From there, you click on anything. Just get to Amazon through those links and then buy anything you want, and we get a little bit of kickback, and it really does go a long way. So that's supporttheaddicts.com. We highly recommend it, especially with this holiday shopping extravaganza ahead of us. But that's for another time. We're in spooky season, baby. So what are we doing this podcast episode? We have a fun...
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were making me say it.
I could kick it over to you. Do you want to say it?
Sure. We are going to be looking back through reviews past, but through reviews that we were not a part of. Because I don't know if the newer listeners know this, there have been 10 years of multiple hosts on this show that have reviewed many an anime. And we are looking through the different reviews that we wish that we were a part of. Whether it be because we just want to gush about the shows that we love that we didn't get to review. We want to go back and tell the hosts that they were wrong. Or because we know that review must have been a lot of fun to be a part of. So we are going to look through it all. And on top of that, we have some other things. Like what, Mason? I put together your and Mitsuki's name. I was going to say Mitsun.
Mitsun or Matsugi. We'll see which one.
I think Mitsun is a very good couple name for you guys.
Well, thank you. Power couple. But he'll bring the legs to that. Anyway, we have an Unexplored Pictures of an old school, really cool ninja movie I'm going to talk about, as well as our first episode of 2022 Fall Impressions. So we're talking My Master Has No Tail. We're talking about Villainess Taming the Final Boss. We're talking about Bocchi. We're talking about these farm-related skills. Caroline just picked all the shows with the longest titles, and we're talking about Do It Yourself and a couple others, so that'll be a bunch of fun. The big news, though, besides the fact that I don't have my water right now, and I left it in the bathroom, and I'm going to run there while you're doing your thing, is that it's time for Big News of the Week. So here we go.
大ニュースです。It's time for big news of the week.
Well, I have a couple things on the list to talk about today, because one thing that I'm sure you are very excited for, Tatami Time Machine Blues is coming to Disney Plus finally in the United States. It's going to be coming on November 9th. I know that you have watched a bit of it using some sort of magical powers that we have yet to understand. You've watched all of it. Okay.
Allegedly.
But now we can watch it legally in the United States. It'll be, again, November 9th. It will have a total of 5 episodes and an original 6th episode streamed exclusively on Disney+. It will feature an original story, not in the original novel that this is based on, and footage that was not included in the anime's theatrical compilation film version. So a little bit extra for those guys. So yeah, it'll be very exciting. And also something very exciting coming to Anime NYC. I talked a bit about it last week, some of the interesting people that will be there. They have added probably the king of all interesting people, Attack on Titan mangaka Hajime Isayama is coming to NYC. Anime NYC, the convention that is happening next month. I believe November 18th, he'll be there for an autograph signing. He'll be at the event's main stage on November 19th. And there will be more information revealed regarding tickets for the signing and the panel in early November, because I'd imagine that's going to be pretty competitive to get to. And apparently this is first event in the United States. And yeah, I would love to go to this. But we were not accepted for the panel this year, unfortunately. We talked a bit about that before, that, we won't be there as panelists this year. We're still possibly maybe waiting to hear if we got press passes for this event. But even so, I'm kind of thinking, even if we were to get press passes, I don't even think I'll be able to go.
Yeah,
because,
I don't know about all that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see what they say.
No, like, even so, what I'm saying is, my sister
You got
asked
plans.
if I wanted to go to a Friendsgiving that weekend. So, yeah, I'm thinking about going to that anyway. But because if it was a done deal that, like, yes, you'll be able to see Hajime Isayama, I'd be like, ooh, that is
Tempting.
much more tempting. But I have high doubts that I'd be able to even see him during this. So.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Well,
But this really kicked the convention up a notch, I would say.
I don't get the appeal behind announcing guests so late. I mean, maybe they just got it and secured it, but I feel like it's... And you want to, like, engage hype throughout the thing right before the event, but man, I wish you would know earlier, like, hey, here's all our guests, here's what we've got going on. And obviously, this thing sold out, like, instantly, so they don't really have to appeal to that, but whatever. Anyway, good for them. I hope it'll be a blast. We'll see if we go or not, but Caroline... Mitsugi isn't here, but I made a Mitsugi-style big news of the week thing. And because you normally ask me these questions, I'm going to ask you these questions.
Ooh, okay.
So right now, Burger King Japan is having a crossover event with Spy Family. And they have 3 signature new burgers that you can buy, and you get, like an apron with their different images on it. There's like a bunch of collectibles that go alongside this collaboration. But the kicker, I guess, is because Anya, big fan, notorious peanut fan, she loves the peanuts, all of these burgers has what they call a peanut butter sauce. Now, whether these are like actual peanut butter, if it's like a satay, or some weird off sweet, salty brand of peanut butter, would you eat one of these crossover Spy Family burgers? Are you a fan of peanut butter on burgers?
Unfortunately for me, I prefer my peanut butter in, desserts or PB&Js, anything with the sweet and salty. That's what I would prefer peanut butter with. Unfortunately, when, you have peanut butter sauces and like Chinese food and all that fun stuff, it's not usually for me.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
I wouldn't not try it. Like,
we
if you were
take
to
that.
offer me, I mean, it depends. Like, what else is on the burger? Do you know?
I can look at the image, and it will probably just look like generic Whoppers.
It's kind of strange to say we have 3 burgers, but we won't tell you what's in them.
I mean, I'm sure they're just like, we have what's called the Royale and Bacon, the Royale and Chicken, Clementine down, and Royale and Berry. So they all look like a flame-broiled Whopper with either bacon and peanut butter, a chicken and peanut butter thing, or I'm guessing like peanut butter and jelly thing? I don't know.
I like jelly. And maybe I've never tried peanut butter with bacon, but anything tastes good with bacon.
Let's see if I can
I'm very sad
pull a
about
mix
my Clementine.
and
But I'm gonna eat it
show
anyway.
you. I can't. Where is this thing? Why is this not showing on the Twitch stream? No, I want to show. Whatever. It's gone forever. You can't see it.
What were you trying to do again?
I was trying to put the peanut butter Royale thing up on Twitch. It can't be done. We don't have the technology. But whatever. Anyway, I'll link it in Twitch and we can move on because that's how the cookie crumbles. Oh my goodness, my computer is struggling so hard right now.
That's how the peanut
Just
crunches.
like me. Just like me. Anyway, my other big news of the week is that a new manga was announced by the creator of One Punch Man and Mob Psycho 100.
Woo!
Hooray! Yeah. Obviously, Mob Psycho finished up in 2017, but One Punch Man is still going on. But the creator of One Punch Man, will start a new manga. It's called Versus, with art by Azuma Kyotaro, who is doing Tenkaichi King of Fighters. This is a battle fantasy where 47 heroes are selected to fight against 47 demons. So, and it's set to begin in late November. So, I am very interested in anything one puts out. He usually gets great artists for it, and we'll see. I tend to love his work, so we'll definitely check that out. So
looks like we got a good week of news here.
Yeah, it was pretty full of stuff. Oh, I see why my thing was hiding. It was so small. That's why. Anyway, moving on to our podcast main topic. And do you want to introduce this as I quickly run to get my water?
Sure, anything for you, Mason.
Thank you.
And your water. And your hydration.
A pal. Here we go.
Okay. Well, as we mentioned earlier, we'll be doing Review Retrospective. That is the name of this topic, where we are just going to be talking about all the show's reviews that we want to be a part of, or we wanted to be a part of. So we have, like, how many episodes have we done so far on this podcast? Over 600 episodes worth of reviews. So obviously there's going to be quite a few shows that we look back on and we say, man, if only I were there and we could have reviewed this show together. So Mason and I have went through our spreadsheet of reviews, because that is an actual thing that we have on our Discord. If you want to check out all the reviews that we've done, all the scores that we've given them, it's right there on our AAA discussion channel. So you can find that in the pinned notes. Now that Mason is back with a barrel of water.
Barrel is the apt description.
Let's get started with the discussion, which is the shows that we watched, that we were involved with. So Mason, would you like to start?
Yeah. Do we want to try to go in like semi-chronological order or just ping pong? No pun intended.
Oh my god, I dropped my Clementine again.
Oh my goodness. This is when Mitz isn't here, we are just shambles. Shambles.
Well, initially, mine was in reverse chronological order because I was going from the top of our spreads. I can't talk today. I'm very sorry. The top of our spreadsheet down, but then I made some changes and I went out of order on mine. So
that's
any order will
fair.
do.
Well, I will go first then, which is episode 240. Yes, you might not believe it, but before we got to the mid 600s, we had to start in the 200s, which sounds like forever ago. And that's because it was. But episode 240, they did a review of No Game, No Life, which is, I think you and I, have you seen that show, Caroline?
I have not seen No Game, No Life.
Well, you haven't seen that show, and if you listened to the review, it got taken down quite a bit. It received 2 2s. Each host gave it a 2. And while the show is far from a masterpiece, it is not complete. It has some, I wouldn't call them problematic, but very problematic elements, and just has some scenes where you're like, did we really need to? It's definitely far better than the 2 that it received, and it could use some defense. It could use some more love and appreciation for the cool designs, just the massive cultural force that it was, and just all the memes and references it made. Like, it did a lot good, better than it deserved. So that's the first one where I would go back in time to say, guys, yeah, there's some problems with the show, but it's got a good nucleus, and it knows what it is, and it does it well. So No Game, No Life deserves more love than what it got. And that's what I would go back to remedy, if I could.
Well, for me, the first thing on my list is Erased, because I love Erased. It's one of my favorites, especially since I watched it pretty early in my anime watching days. And I'll be the first to say the ending is, when I first watched the ending, I thought it was great. But then I read the manga and I'm like, holy shit, this is so much better. So really, it's an improvement that I experienced, not so much of a disappointment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I wish I could just go back and gush on it, because that's all I want to do. Luckily, it seems that everyone else kind of enjoyed Erased as much as I did, because the overall score was a 4. So that's pretty decent, I'd say. Yeah, so there's nothing so much I would want to change about that review, but certainly I just want to go back and talk
Gotcha.
all
You would
about
just
it.
want to talk about the shows you love.
Yeah,
Even though they
yeah.
did a good job with it, you would say.
hmm
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And I would say
Oh,
that's a
and this
very
was reviewed on episode 329, by the way. I didn't mention
329.
that.
Okay. Yeah, and I would say that's a very similar mindset to my next one, which is, as I alluded to earlier, episode 244, Ping Pong the Animation, which was Mitsugi and Cram back in the good old days. And, I wouldn't have changed anything. That would have been my first 5 out of 5 score that I would have given. And it would have been, it would have felt so righteous. And so I didn't need to change anything. It also got 5s from both of them. But it would have been so much fun to just aid the pressure and gaslighting that Cram put on Mitsugi to force him into giving it a 5. Because if you listen back, Mitsugi was like, yeah, this show's pretty good, but I don't know if it's a 5. And Cram was just like, no, man, like it's a 5. Like you'd be insane not to give it a 5. This was so good. Why aren't you giving it a 5? And eventually, Mitsugi crumbled like the weak, innocent man he is and gave it a 5 at the end. And that would have been, I would have just fed into that. I'm like, yeah, what are you doing, Mitz? How is it not a 5? And so once again, I wouldn't have changed the score in any way. I didn't need to add anything because Cram's a mastermind of all this, but that would have been fun to just make Mitsugi crumble into giving it a 5. So 244 Ping Pong, just an iconic moment on the show. So would go back.
It's a funny thing that you mention wanting to go back just to make Mitsugi crumble, because my next thing on my list is to go back to the blood. It's such a bad English name. Kekai Sensen is much easier to say than Blood Blockade Battlefront and beyond. So both of those reviews, that was on episode 295 and the sequel 417. I would love to go back just to goad Mitsugi, if that's the correct word, but just to talk. Oh my gosh, this show is amazing. Did you see this? Did you see that? Even if I kind of agree with him a little bit on his views on it, because it doesn't really have like a storyline that kind of grabs me, and I do have my issues with it. I do like it much better than he does, but that's why I want to go back and just to destroy him.
Would you play?
He absolutely hates this show so much with every ounce of his being. He gave both of them 1s, which is great.
Caroline, would you play it innocent? Would you be like, oh, the show is perfect, like there's nothing wrong with it, and just like stone cold like ignore all the complaints? Or would you be like, yeah, I see your problems with it, but that ED though, but that's stylish though? Like
if we were to review this like today as the like right now, I probably will be like, oh yeah, like it's kind of half and half, like here are my pros, here are my cons. But if I were to go back, I probably would just do it to shit with Mitsugi. Just
yes.
give it so many positive points, and because I know how much he hates it, that's what I would do. If I didn't know how much he hated it, I probably would just, be pretty normal with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's fair. In retrospect, you would have known exactly how to toy with him.
Yes, exactly.
That's an excellent point.
So,
my
what's
next
on
one,
yours?
episode 280, we have Your Lie in April.
Mm-hmm. I was going to put this on my list too, but I knew you already had it on
well,
there.
we can both talk about it. This was one of the first shows to get the sweeping all 5 praise. Not just like, Cram bullying Mitsugi into giving Ping Pong a 5. This was like multiple hosts giving it a 5 out of 5. Just a good feel-good episode of people just talking it up, giving it just all this love, all this adoration, just showering it with praise. And I would have loved to go back to ruin that feel-good train.
Me too!
Oh my goodness, that would have been so fun to be just the one stinker in there. And obviously I try not to go like against the grain too much, but man, that would have been fun to be like, what do you guys...
Yeah.
What?
This is the exact opposite of the Blood Blockade Battlefront.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. when I first watched Your Lie in April, it had so much hype behind it, and this was still relatively early in my anime watching days. So I was like, okay, I mean, yeah, that was good, but I didn't really feel like it was worth the hype it gave me. And then as I've aged, this is several years later, I realized that Your Lie in April is not all that awesome. Like it's not. I hate to say it. I don't think it's a 5 out of 5
No,
show.
no.
It's like at best for me 3.5 out of 5. The music great, looks great. The slapstick comedy when talking about abuse is an interesting choice.
Yeah, it's a different sort of problematic bucket than the No Game No Life problematic bucket, but it just feels even more off-putting because it is going for so much of this heartfelt, sappy story where you just feel for this poor boy and what he's going through, and it's like, haha, abuse, teehee, and you're like, that's the best tonal use of this scene.
Not only is it an interesting choice, but there's also a lot of whiplash, because you feel in your feels, and it's a good kind of feels, like it's like hitting that point. It's effective. But then they come in with the comedy and they kind of just dash the effectiveness for me, if I were to say that. But again, it's been a long time since I've seen it, so maybe it's worth a rewatch if I really want to get my point across and try to make it make sense. But when I see something like Your Lie in April, and then sometime later I watch March Comes In Like a Lion, which are not the same shows, but comparative in what they're trying, the story they're trying to tell, everything just pales into comparison from March Comes In Like a Lion. I feel like I make that comparison way too much, but it's just the best one.
No, it's fine. And I get it, a lot of these reviews are made with not having the ability of hindsight or to sit with the show for a while. You're watching it, and if you're digging it, you dig it, you give it a good show. I'm sure there's some shows that we would go back of our own reviews and be like, well, now that I think about it, this was actually not that bad. I probably should give it an extra half point, or man, this show really aged poorly. Like, we don't always have that benefit on the podcast, so I get that. But on the other hand, it's not like they were watching cruddy shows and this like was the first good show in a while, and they're like, oh my goodness, finally something with like competent writing, depth, like just good production values, and we're blown away. Like, they were watching Shirobako before this. They were watching Yona of the Dawn. They were watching Parasite, The Maxim. Like, they were eating good, and they were still betrayed. And man,
they were eating good, and then they gave Kraft mac and cheese a 5. They just got walked out of a Thanksgiving dinner and gave a Kraft mac and cheese a 5 out of 5.
Yeah, come on. Even as someone who loves the Kraft mac and cheese, you gotta know its place. So
Kraft mac and cheese is great. I'm not saying it's not, but
yeah, let's hold our horses a little bit here. Let's not go so crazy.
It's a good comfort once in a while, but yeah, whatever. Anywho, let's move on to the next thing on my list, which is the review of episode 400, Princess Principal. Now, I feel like this show does not get the credit it deserves. It is a very good show, and I rewatched it for Anime Club, and I'm thinking to myself, oh shit, show is as good as I remember it. And then I kind of look back to the review that the podcast did, and overall, not bad scores. The overall score was like a 3.5, which is valid.
That's fair.
And actually, that's probably what I would have given it to, in fact. But yeah. What? Oh, but my purpose of saying these things. Again, I just want to talk about it. Because the name of it does not inspire a lot of good expectations, like Princess Principal. That sounds like it's a magical girl show or something like that. And it's kind of a little bit like a magical girl, except there's no magic in it. But there's a group of teen girls that work undercover as spies in this fantasy world between two countries. One of the girls on their team is the princess of that country, and so they're working as double agents in this revolution that they're having or whatever. And honestly, very good, highly recommend, and I want to go back and review it.
Yeah, there's something interesting about like going back through our list of reviews that this podcast has done, and you're like, man, they've reviewed like all these classics that are just
Yeah.
huge names. Like, it'd be cool if we got that. We do. We just don't know it at the time. Like,
It's
we
true.
have the Ranking of Kings and the Odd Taxi and your Sunny Boys and Heike Monogatari. Like, we have like
Yeah.
good shows in the making. We just don't have that retrospective to acknowledge like, wow, these have stood the test of time. So it's always interesting though, going back. Like, they didn't know back in the day what a lot of these shows would end up being, how much staying power they would have. So
Yeah.
oh well, too bad, too sad. Get good.
Mhm.
My next one I would like to go back for is Yuri Kuma Arashi, which is a very divisive show. And this is a classic review of Chiaki just absolutely loving Ikuhara, all the symbolism and themes that he put forth, and just what the message behind the message, because it is obviously a crazy off-the-wall show. And Kazuo just absolutely like not engaging with that side of it and being like, yeah, but the show is dumb and boring and not good, and why is this happening? So it would have been fun on this review to agree with everything that Chiaki said and be like, yeah, that is really interesting and clever and unique and just part of what makes this show what it is. But then also give it the low score that Kazuo gave it. Like, I would have played both sides of the aisle and been like, yeah, it is really cool how they did all this stuff. It's also not a good show. And just been like the perfect bridge between those two worlds. So that would have been an enjoyable experience to be on.
Yeah. Yeah. And like similar with the next one on my list, Attack on Titan 1, 2, and 3, which have all been reviewed. The third season came through before we had our 2-season limit. So those all 3 were reviewed, and I think Mitsugi and Pancake did some extra episode
Bonus
reviews
content,
when 4th season, yeah. All of which I've never been a part of. But Attack on Titan, as much as I probably talk about it too much to the point where I'm like one of those, I don't know, I don't know what the word is, but just hyping up in certain shows way too much, and I feel like this is probably one of those. But Attack on Titan is just like one of those shows which has become a future classic. And even right now, it is considered like probably one of the best shows at the moment. But in the future, this is going to be the show that you point your kids to and you tell them to watch. Well, actually, no, maybe not kids, because, you know, you see a lot of...
kids eventually.
Yes.
Young teenagers.
This is what you're going to review to all the new anime fans. And even now is probably what's happening. So, yeah. And the first review was like an individual review on episode 203. And the other 2 was on episode 392, and the 3rd season was at 450. I just want to be on any one of those reviews, preferably season 1, maybe season 3, or actually no, any one of them, because they're all very great and had interesting things to talk about. Let me see, what did they give the first season? Okay, the first season score was a 3.5. Which is kind of incredible to think about when you know how big it got. It's certainly a lot bigger than a 3.5 show.
Yeah.
But let me see. What was it given the second season? The second season was
3?
given, yeah, it was a 3.
Which is fair.
Which,
like,
I mean,
it's a bit of a drop. I wouldn't give it 3, but like compared to season 1, I could see why they were
maybe.
Yeah.
But then I remember like some of the great plot twists that happened in season 2, and I'm thinking like, holy shit, that was amazing, kind of thing. When you just think about those individual moments. And then season 3 was given a 4.5.
Who would have done that?
Wow. Okay, let's see who got. Okay, this was an Enzo, Mandy, and Mitsugi review, and I think all 3 of them gave it a 4.5. They all got the same
score. Season 3 was so good. It was really good.
Yeah. Too bad we can't do. I mean, we did do like they did their individual extra episode.
Yeah, they should have invited you.
They should have.
That's your show. We talked
about it. We talked about doing it for part 2 of season 4.
Yeah.
but we just never did it. Like, they never did it, so it's not as if they didn't invite, like, it just never happened, so that was disappointing. But
Yeah.
we should get into it for the actual end of Attack on Titan.
I think that's deserving of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just think though, in like 10, 20 years, you're gonna like talk to your nieces and nephews and be like, back in my day, I had to wait 4 years to watch Attack on Titan season 2, and they're gonna be like, well, you're so old. Why are you? I have it all on demand. Like, it's already done. Like, it was still coming out when you were watching it. Jeez Louise. So,
Like, not even for me though, because I started watching anime in 2015. So at that point, Attack on Titan, the first season, had been out for a couple years around. So I
you
had the
got on with the
luxury
second
of cutting
season.
the waiting time by a little bit. But even so, I was still feeling the sorrow of the time in between that season and the second season, to the point where I accidentally spoiled the show for myself because I was just looking for more Attack on Titan content, and I accidentally landed on the spoiler-fied wiki page, and I found out who the Colossal and the Armored Titan was before it was revealed. So that was sad, but still, it's just such a good time.
That's always the best when we're like doing research for the podcast and we're like, oh, how do we spell that character's name? Or I need to get a footage or picture for something. Let me just go to the wiki. And it's like, anime status, alive. Manga status, deceased. And you're like, oh, I'm going to close that page. Doop. I'm going to pretend I didn't see that.
Or even if you're just Googling a character's name and be like, so-and-so, death. And I'm like, ah.
I think that's just Caroline's autocomplete finishing her often Google searches. Next up on my list, speaking of really good shows, 372, Showa Rakugo Shinju. This is the sequel to the critically acclaimed Rakugo Shinju Season 1, and it deserved just way more praise. It got a great score, but that review, I think, was just Chiaki, and it needed more voices trumpeting its successes because, damn, that second season was so incredible. Not just from, like, its really good anime, but it also, like, fixed all the nagging issues you had with Season 1 in such a clever way. Because you watch Season 1, you're like, dang, this is really good. But that ending was kind of suspicious. Like, I didn't really jive with it. And then Season 2's like, oh, it was all part of the plan, baby. And you're like, oh, they got me. It's such a good season. And it needed more people saying, watch this, people. I don't care if you don't know what Rakugo is. Our trivia question today is about Rakugo, because this show just like simultaneously introduced so many people to what Rakugo could be and how they did it so good on the first try. And just, this is like the standard that every Rakugo show is compared to now, and it's incredible. So watch Rakugo Shinju, please. It's very good.
I agree. And speaking of shows that I cannot stop talking about because I literally just talked about it when you were talking about your lie in April, I want to go back and review March Comes In Like a Lion. It was episode 375. Once again, this was only reviewed by Chiaki, no idea why. And she gave it a 5, which, good on her. But I want to go because, again, it was just her. And I feel like this show requires conversation. And yeah, it probably would have been, I've never given a show a 5 before. This probably would have been it. And yeah, though now that I think about it, back in the day, we gave out 5s a lot more often, didn't we? Or like just the podcast in general.
Maybe.
Yeah. But even so, I, especially since it was only one person reviewing it, I want to be there. I want to be able to talk to Chiaki about it.
Validate it, yeah. Maybe I've infected the scoring system a little bit. I've poisoned the water hole.
Yeah, it's all your fault. But go on with your next one.
Yeah, so my next one and second to last is episode 401, which was a review of the show Gamers. And this show quite honestly just needs to be burned to the ground. The show is I assume you haven't seen the show, Caroline,
I
because
have not.
you are a good person. But essentially, we've all seen the love triangle before. It's a trope that is just fundamental to, you know, a lot of romance shows and drama shows. This was the advent of the love like pentagram. This was like everyone's in a relationship with everyone else and either doesn't know or just, it was like the most like miscommunication gaffe of errors out of any show ever. Yeah, Zero
I don't know.
Roko
I
in the
feel like
chat is the love dodecagon. It's
I feel like Kiznaiver can give that, you know, a good old college try.
Kiznaiver was like decent in so many ways though. Gamers was like the most,
I mean, I guess I can't compare it to Gamers because I've
dumpster fire, like geez, like it was like definitely like if you love these so bad it's good shows, like people were on board for Gamers. There was like an appeal to just how low it could sink in the people missing the mark. But this show got a 2.5 from the podcast, and this just needed to be
brought down a little more.
Yeah, choke slammed from the top rope of Hell in the Cell, where Undertaker would be just taking it to the ground because Gamers is abysmal, and I can't believe I watched it, and I wish I could have taken that time and channeled and funneled it into a productive review telling people not to watch this show. Oh my goodness, it's bad.
All right, I'm going to talk about another good show that I just wanted to be a part of, and that would be 91 Days. Now, we don't really talk about this show too much, but we've mentioned it here and there recently. But this was reviewed in episode 354, and it was given a 5, which honestly kind of surprised me, because I feel like with a show that we don't really talk about much, it wouldn't have been given a 5. But yeah, it's wait, how many people reviewed this show? It looks like it was just Chiaki and Kimiko who reviewed it and gave it both a 5. And as much as I love this show, I don't know if I would give it a 5 though, not due to anything. Actually, why wouldn't I give it a 5?
Do you think their excitement would have like fed into you and you're like, yeah, this show, I had a ton of fun with it, yeah, it's a 5?
Yeah, I feel like I would give it like maybe a 4.5 though. I feel like that would be the highest I would go with the show.
You would have been tasteful about your 5.
Yeah, because I'm very choosy with my 5s, and 91 Days' ending I feel like would have been the reason why I wouldn't give it a 5, because it's up for debate. There's a couple confusing things and a couple theories based on how they arranged the last few scenes of the show, which is interesting to talk about, but if you're looking for a whole package, it's kind of tainted by it for me. I would have given it a 4.5, but I still, again, would just love to talk about it. Because when we reviewed, I rewatched it for Anime Club. We had a fantastic time going through the different theories and all that. So, yeah.
Nice. Oh, everyone in the chat is saying Gamers is so much fun. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But man, a show can be not good and fun. So, but not 2.5 good. No. We're talking like half or 1 out of 5. That's what we're talking about here. And for my final little show I want to talk about, we have Steins Gate, a very good show. I absolutely adore Steins Gate. It is
never heard of it.
Iconic. It is classic. It has so many memes, so many tutoros, and it gets a lot of flack for its first 7 episodes or whatever it is. I don't mind them at all, but then again, I also like the Endless 8, so you really can't trust anything I say. That said, on episode 442, they reviewed Steins Gate 0 and gave it a very good score. I think Mitz gave it a 4, Enzo gave it a 4.5, and while not as bad as Gamers, Steins Gate 0 also deserves to be burned to the ground. That was such an embarrassing follow-up in so many ways, and it just completely ruined so much about what that series had to offer, because I watched the main Steins Gate and it was awesome, and I was like, there's no way they can do this great. And they did the movie, which was very solid, and I'm like, wow, how did they follow that up with something just as incredible in a lot of ways? So maybe there is something here. And then they're like, a sequel season, I have my doubts. It's so long after. Boy, it was garbo. It was trash. It was nothing I want associated with that show at all. And not only was it a disappointment from a follow-up to Steins Gate, it was just a disappointment by its own standards. And it was a cash grab, and it just, it rubbed me the wrong way. And the fact that people enjoy it is fantastic, and I'm glad people have fun in life, but man, I didn't have fun, so neither should you, and neither should people go to this podcast and be like, oh, the Steins Gate Zero is pretty good. And if that's what people get out of it, and it causes them to watch Steins Gate, okay, maybe there's something there, but to then go on with Steins Gate is a recipe for disaster, and I don't like that this podcast supports such frivolous shows of inadequacy. So
that was very passionate.
Steins Gate Zero is big sad.
Well, for my last show, of course, we're keeping with the memes. School Live. Or Gakko Garashi, as I prefer to say, because School Live just sounds wrong. I always want to say School Live, but I think it's School Live. Either way, it's Gakko Garashi, and apparently it's my favorite show.
It is.
No, it's not true. It's not my favorite show. I just feel like people shit on it just because it's cute girls doing cute things, but it's also cute girls doing cute things with a plot twist in the first episode. So I'm not going to talk too much about it right now. In case you haven't seen it and you want to watch the first episode and you want to be surprised, go right ahead, because I fully recommend you do that. But anywho, why did our group of reviewers give this show an overall 2? I feel like it's far better than a 2. Let's see, what else did people give this give 2s to?
They gave No Game No Life a 2, and that didn't deserve it.
A 2 to Charlotte. A 2 to Blood Blockade Battlefront, which we have already discussed as not being very good in Mitsuki's eyes. But how about this? How about we just say that while 2 of our reviewers gave School Live a 2, Mitsuki gave it a 2.5 for Moe Girls.
Yeah.
He gave the higher score, which is something to remember.
I think he'll just claim that it was because they were suffering, and that is enough to, I don't know.
What else did they give 2s to that I can remember? No Game No Life was given a 2. What I don't recognize any of these others as I go down the list. But there are so many other shows that deserve their 2s, and School Live isn't one of them. Because there's a lot of great production value in this show, just in general. The sound design is awesome, and the Moe girls are cute. Do I like the fact that this girl's basically wearing lingerie to school? Not really, but she's cool, and there's a lot of great scenes in this show, and twists and turns galore, and I want my damn season 2. So don't come at me saying it's a 2, and I want to go back to that review and tell them that they're wrong.
Caroline, let's play a game really quick. I'm going to go down some of the 2s that we have given, that we've reviewed.
Okay. Oh, yes, this is a good idea.
And you're going to say if School Live is better than that show.
Sure.
Bastard, the remake.
Oh, yeah.
Shield Hero Season 2.
Definitely.
Sabikui Bisco.
Actually, I kind of think they're kind of even.
Okay, I could see that. In the Land of Lee Dale.
So much better than that piece of shit.
Let's do a couple more. Tact Op Destiny.
Yeah.
Nighthead 2041.
Just based on the production values, yes.
You kind of enjoyed
better.
that one.
Remake. They had some good ideas.
Yeah, Remake Our Life.
Hell to the yes.
And finally, Aquatope, or in Mitsuki's words, Aquatrope on White Sand.
Yeah.
I think you've made your case that you are consistent, that a School Live show is better than a 2 for the fan base, and you made your point crystal clear.
I
There
feel
you
like
have
this could
it.
be adapted into a topic on its own, actually, just comparing what we've
Every
given
show
scores.
to school live.
Like, not every scores, but not to School Live in particular, but to shows that we feel is much better than the score it was given, and then compare that show to the other shows that were given that same score.
Well, that is
I feel,
very fair.
I feel like that would be, that was fun. And I don't know if we can do an entire topic about it, but it was fun.
Yeah, I had a blast at least. So I think we're a good pace to do some trivia time.
Okay, so as you mentioned, this is about Rakugo. In the form of Rakugo, what are the only two props that can be used? Then we'll get into the news break. Give us your answer in the meantime, and we will give you the answer when we are done with that.
My thing just isn't playing.
Yes,
There we
there
go. Now the music comes through. Anyway.
Okay.
We'll see you guys in a bit.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to the news break for episode 649. In the ever more frustrating world of streaming services, we have two pieces of news for you. First, Netflix announced that after losing customers in the first two fiscal quarters of 2022, it has added 2.41 million subscribers to its service in the third quarter, bringing its total delta for the year to roughly 1.25 million. Now having a total of 223 million subscribers worldwide, having Netflix be a place to watch anime and get it in front of more eyeballs is hopefully a long-term boon to the industry. Additionally, Netflix announced on Thursday that it will launch its new Basic with Ads subscription tier on November 3rd in various countries. The tier will launch in the United States at a price of $7 per month and will have 4 to 5 minutes of advertisements per hour and a maximum of 720p resolution. It will be interesting to see how many people take a reduced price in order to suffer through some ads. As for Crunchyroll, in a spooky move, it and Funimation are adjusting prices in a selection of international markets, quote, as part of creating a unified subscription service. On October 31st, multiple countries will be hit by this, and if you happen to live on any continent, it is probably worth looking into. This is likely due to the rampant inflation and strength of the dollar, resulting in a decreased revenue for the California-based Crunchyroll. Finally, if you like jazz, I have two more pieces of news for you. The anime film adaptation of the Blue Giant manga revealed a new teaser trailer highlighting the soundtrack's musicians, and it sounds very killer. I'm so excited for this movie, keep your eye out. Also, Bandai Namco Entertainment announced that it will host a jazz music streaming event on December 3rd for Elden Ring. Titled Elden Ring, A Night in the Lands Between, will be two shows broadcast at 6 and 10 p.m. Pacific Time. Tickets to the physical and live stream event are available through the event website, starting at $15. The event will feature alto saxophone musician Kenny Garrett and jazz trumpeter Takia Kuroda, who will translate the original soundtrack into jazz tunes. Seems like an interesting and eclectic mix to me. Anyway, that will do it for the news break this week. I will see you back on the podcast as we resume episode 649 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous podcast.
Anime Addicts, the AAA podcast, is always trying to bring you new and exciting ways to enjoy our content, and now we have an exclusive member-only RSS feed on the site that is going to let you access our hentai episodes, our Hobby Addicts, and our After Parties episodes, all from your favorite mobile apps. That's an additional 8 episodes of content per month just for you, and you can listen to it through Apple Podcasts app, you can listen to it through Podcast Addicts, Pocket Cast, Overcast FM, Downcast FM, etc., onward and onward. So many mobile apps for you to choose from. If you were holding back on supporting the podcast because you didn't like listening to our extra content through our website, now you can get it and listen to it the same way you enjoy all your other podcasts. So pitch in, help out the podcast, do a good thing, and enjoy all the extra content we have for you. Just go to aapodcast.com/join and you will get all this extra content and an exclusive member RSS feed for you to enjoy. That's aapodcast.com/join and support the podcast.
この番組は JList.com の提供でお送りします。
Oh, yeah. This feels so weird hearing Mitsugi on an episode where he's not on. You're like, what? They don't record these live? Sometimes we do. Not today. Not today. But thank you all for joining us after that news break that you probably just skipped through, because I know you. I'm watching. I see what you do. I have the analytics. I have the numbers. I have nothing. It's all a ruse. It's all a sham. When we left you, we had an in-show weekly trivia question, which was, in the art form of Rakugo, what are the only two props that can be used? The answer is a Japanese paper fan, or a sensu, and a hand cloth, or tengui. So, there you go. Big Rakugo fans in the house.
Well, you know what I found is I'm not big fan of March Comes In Like a Lion on our Discord, because I was just checking it during the news break.
Yeah, as you do.
And I see a message from somebody who's apparently listening live and posted this in our AAA discussion channel. And they say, March Comes In Like a Lion is a 2 out of 5. Nothing more.
Wow.
It's garbage. Worst animation style since One Piece. Music is meh, and plot is boring.
Wow, I love it. This is why you gotta be on the Discord, people.
This is the terrible take. Usually, okay, I try to keep in mind that people's tastes are different. And I can see why some people might not want to watch March Comes In Like a Lion. Like, the art is an acquired taste. And on, like, immediate first sight, it looks really strange. But the more you watch it, the more you love it. I can see people might find that the story is a bit slow, which it is. It's supposed to be, you know, a very mellow kind of show with a lot of drama. But it is far from being objectively boring. Like, this is all due to one person's taste, and they're applying it to this amazing show that might not be to everyone's taste, but it's certainly not an objective 2 out of 5.
It's a masterpiece. Have you heard the song where the kittens sing and teach you how to play shogi?
Okay.
That's 5 out of 5 right there, baby. Masterpiece.
That is not specifically what I am referring to, but there's, like, just so much amazing, like, stories in it about an assortment of characters and the struggles that they face, from, like, classroom bullying to the, you know, the effects of age on a person that is just trying to continue to pursue their passion. It's an amazing show. That is certainly not a 2 out of 5. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say my piece and to call out somebody. I'm sorry.
Now we're gonna get like an iTunes review, like a 2 out of 5
Probably.
saying Caroline assaulted me.
Yeah, she's so mean.
She didn't respect my. No, we love it all. We appreciate you. Please give us good reviews. Please use our Amazon
We
list.
don't beg.
I know. We're kidding. We're kidding. We have a good time. Let's talk about a movie that I think is pretty darn cool. And I didn't prep the sound bite, so I gotta do that. I gotta stall for time. When's the last time I did this? Oh my goodness, I didn't do it that episode either. I'm so screwed. Oh, I've been bamboozled. And here we go.
Are you okay?
Yes.
Get your popcorn ready. It's time for Unexplored Pictures with Mason.
This is the part of the show where we talk about cool movies, either brand new ones or old as dirt ones, and say, hey, this exists. Did you know about it? Should you check it out? We'll find out. This little segment is going to talk about The Dagger of Kamui, or Kamui no Ken, and it's based on a series of Japanese novels from the 1980s, and it was adapted in 1985 into an anime film directed by the legendary director Rintaro and animated, of course, by Madhouse. It's a few ticks over 2 hours long, so it's a sizable experience, and it tells an epic tale. And the story begins in the northernmost part of Honshu, up near Hokkaido, up in Japan. And our main character's name is Jiro, and he comes home and he finds his adopted family slain. His adopted sister dead, his mother dead, everyone dead. And he's like, damn, this sucks. And he's accused by the village of doing the deed. So he's forced to flee, and he's soon taken over, I should say, by Tenkai, one of the few real-world figures who appears in this movie. And this Tenkai figure kind of helps Jiro seek out the person responsible for killing his family. And he kind of helps just be like, oh, that's the guy who did it. We've been tracking him, and that's the guy. You should go kill him. And so the movie is about revenge, and good news, they take care of it in like the first 10 minutes. Problem solved. Everyone can go home. Not quite. It's really just the beginning of what is a global spanning epic story of tragedies and twists and treasure. And it is a just grand scale adventure of Jiro and his people he gets in contact with as he seeks out this legendary treasure that is apparently why everyone's kind of going after him at times. And this movie is full of trippy musical sequences that combine this like rock music instrumentation with Balinese Kekik vocals. And it's so trippy. So this type of singing is also known as the Ramayana monkey chant. And it's a form of like Hindu dance that was developed in the 1930s. And it's super entrancing. And if you've ever seen Akira, which I'm hoping is everyone who's listening to this, if not, watch that right now. It has a very similar flavor with these kind of just like these massive choral groups of chanting that just is like trippy. I don't know how to describe it, but it is so rhythmically interesting and just a cacophony of like waves as sounds. And it's a super cool vibe. And visually as well, this movie is certainly old looking in some of the designs and this like nauseating ship movement they do when people are on a ship and they're just like, you can see them just like being dragging around the screen. Anyway, but it's so bold and mesmerizing. It looks so cool. Every time someone gets cut into, this like a neon firework of blood just erupts from them. And this like, these
love to hear it.
Characters move with like this bounding loose movement that is so like apropos of that style of animation. So if you like that like 1980s style, like absolutely check it out. The fight sequences are so dope. If you've ever seen the incredibly violent and mature Ninja Scroll, this is kind of like a prototype PG-13 version of it, because a lot of these same ideas and studios would go on to do Ninja Scroll, and this is kind of like the cornerstone of it. So this movie was actually released in the West under the English dub version called Revenge of the Ninja Warrior, and it was like heavily edited, like 20% of the movie was taken out. But it was then later like recut and released under the name we know it today as The Dagger of Kamui or The Blade of Kamui. So if you have seen this, the Revenge of Ninja Warrior style or whatever, let me know what you thought of it, because this is a fantastic old school movie. It's not like gonna blow anyone away or anything, but if you love the classics, don't miss out on it. It can be found on Bilibili, one of the online streaming services, and it's just a cool time. And just watch like the first, 5 minutes, just the opening sequence will just like sell you on everything there is to know about the Dagger of Kamui. So it's pretty darn neat, and I'm glad I watched it. So with that said, let's get to everyone's favorite.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime.
Mailbag.
If you want to send a mailbag to us, just go to AAApodcast.com, click the mailbag button, and you can send us any question that your little heart desires, like Slacker for Life did. And they say, "Good afternoon, AAA superstars." Oh, thank you. Everyone loves a good origin story. The epic adventures of weak, underpowered characters to OP protagonists fill the episodes of anime across time. That being said, where did all your AAA podcast journeys begin? How did the real anime Big Three come to be? Although I wouldn't really refer to us as Big Three, you know. There have been several hosts of this podcast after all. Thanks again for making my anime addiction even worse. Thank you so much, Slacker for Life. So if you're I wasn't sure if I understood the question specifically, but what I understood it to be like, where did we start with what shows did we watch? My first anime, as I talked about before, Attack on Titan, my very first. I went in hot, and then I mellowed out with Sword Art Online after that. Because at that time, when I finished Attack on Titan, I'm like, oh, what else should I watch? What other things is anime? What is this? And then everyone at the time was talking about Sword Art Online. I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this has got to be as good as Attack on Titan. And at the time, I thought, yes, this is amazing. And then I watched, is it technically season 2 or part 2 of it?
I think it's part 2.
The fairy dance arc, either way.
Yeah,
was
I think that's the
just,
second one.
a
Second
lot.
part.
And that kind of brought down my enthusiasm. And nowadays I shit on Sword Art Online, but it was a good starting point. There are some good things about it. I won't say it's all bad. But yeah, so that was like my second anime, and I think my third was Naruto, because that is one that I did hear about before. Like when I was a kid, my cousins watched Naruto, and I figured, you know what? They said to me when I was like 9 years old, you should watch Naruto. And here I am, my 18-year-old self saying, let's watch Naruto, finally. So yeah, that was my first 3-ish. I might have gotten the order wrong, and it might have been a different show and otherwise, but those were my first ones.
Yeah, and it's funny because out of those shows, 2 of the shows that I associate with you, Caroline, just as a entity, is Attack on Titan and Naruto. Like those are kind of like, if there's anyone on this podcast that someone comes on and they're like, oh, I'm a huge fan of like Attack on Titan, huge fan of Naruto, like who should I talk to? I'm like, talk to Caroline. That's her turf. That's her domain.
Although I can't compare with Pancake, who has apparently seen Naruto many times over.
Like
so
6 times or something? Jeez.
Yeah, I think I have to concede to her.
We don't need to
an honorary host.
compete against everyone. I'm just saying, like, on this, the voice of those shows on this podcast are you. So
thanks.
As for me,
what about you?
My landmark journey, I guess, like the shows that like were the cornerstones of what made me the anime addict that I am today. Obviously, the first one that I saw in some fever dream at like 3 a.m. on Adult Swim when I didn't know what the heck was on. I didn't know what anime was. But Fooly Cooly, that just blew me away. I watched like 1 episode and I was like, what did I watch? What's the name of the show? And I couldn't find it again because you're a kid. You don't know what the heck is going on.
And Fooly Cooly is not really something you remember being, making sense. Like Fooly Cooly are just made up words.
No, it's all, yeah, exactly. Like, the only time they say Fooly Cooly is, on the eye catches when they say Fooly Cree. Like, I didn't know that was the name of the show. I didn't know what they were saying. Like, but it turns out maybe that's why I'm so messed up, is because I watched that as a baddie, and is what it is. But I do know a couple years later, in 2006, that Cartoon Network, I think, was hosting what they called a Ghibli Marathon or a Miyazaki Month or something like that, where some weird, strange, eclectic, acclaimed director who did animated works, they were going to show a bunch of their movies. And I don't remember knowing a thing about anything, but I was like, this thing looks pretty cool. And I was like telling my parents, I'm like, I want to see these movies. They're showing it like, I don't know, 7 p.m. Central Time. And I'm like, on these days, I want to watch these things. And no one knew what we were getting into. But I remember watching Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, and a bunch of stuff like that. And I was like, dang, this is cool. I like this. And I don't know, I guess you could also throw like Teen Titans in there. That was kind of anime adjacent, or Avatar: The Last Airbender, but those were both really neat. And then finally, like, I didn't really dive deep into my anime addiction until 2014 when Kill la Kill came out, because I had seen stuff at college. I was like more aware of what it was. I remember when I was a junior, so we were watching a show and someone asked me what my ship was of the main characters, and I did not know what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, a ship? There's no watercraft in the show. And they're like, ship. No, like, who do you ship? And I'm like, it's not helping. And they're like, who do you think would be in a good relationship with one another? And then I was like indoctrinated to like the whole like online culture of things. But Kill la Kill 2014, after I graduated college, was when I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a problem. And it has been ever since to this day. So that's how I got to where I am now. So thank you for the question.
That is
Slacker
how your
for
problem
life.
began.
It's how it began and how it continued. So, oh geez. So, let us get into a very important part of this show.
Please explain what you mean.
Today, we're going to be doing impressions.
Impression time, believe it!
Yes, indeed. This is the part of the show where we figure out what the heck we're going to review from this fall 2022 season. So each season, we review 9 shows. And this is how we get about to deciding it. Each of the hosts, normally there's 3 of us, and I'm sorry if this is your first episode, but normally there's 3 of us, and we each are going to pass 2 shows over the next couple episodes. So this gives us a total of 6 shows to review. Then, out of all the other shows that come out this season, besides shows that are past their second season, we put them up for a big vote for all you fans, except the person who didn't like March Comes In Like a Lion. Your vote is disqualified. All of you guys go at it and figure out what top 3 shows do you want us to review. These could be the shows you think are the best, the shows that we missed out on, the shows that you just really hate us for, just really meme worthy, like whatever it is. And whatever those top 3 shows get enough votes, those are the final 3 shows. So even if we fail a show you enjoy, it's not out of the running yet. And you can watch or keep track of all the shows we've passed or failed on our spreadsheet, which you can find on our website, aapodcast.com, on our Discord, just everywhere. We have it all tracked. It's so easy. So I'll just look. I believe you can find it. And this is episode 1. So far we've passed no shows, but we will see what comes out of today's viewing. So would you like to go first, or should I?
I suppose I'll go first. Okay, so the first thing on my list today is I've somehow gotten stronger when I improved my farm-related skills. And because that is a terrible name for an anime, I have been referring to this show as the OP Farmer anime, because that is basically what it is.
Okay,
so
is this an isekai?
This is not an isekai. Yes, because who would be sent to an isekai world and choose to be a farmer? Not many. Not many. Although I guess there have been the pharmacy isekai, which is farming. So we already have a farm isekai. This is not the farm isekai. This is the farm fantasy. So this show is about a farmer who, with this setup of a fantasy world, it's all done like an MMO again, like with the whole levels and stats and all that stupid stuff that we have grown to expect from any fantasy world. So yeah, they have that going. And, like, there's a lot of cliches in the show. Like, it's you could tell by the name, this is not going to be high art, and that's why I was at the bottom of my impressions list. So here we have Alwayne, and they keep saying Alwayne. I think it's funny because they say it so many times. So Alwayne is a farmer in this fantasy world. Because he farms so much, he realizes that he's basically maxed out most of his skills. So I think he like combines them or something. He like chooses an option that consolidates his skills, and that somehow makes him like 1,000,000 times stronger than he even was like 5 seconds ago. So now he's like super powered. He breaks the handles off of doors. And he just does all this crazy stuff like, wow, I'm really powerful now. And the one thing that he cares about most is his farm. So when he, by happenstance, saves the princess, he cares more about the fact that he's late for the farmer's market that he's going to. So he's like, oh, that's great. I'm glad you're safe. I gotta go. So bring, he leaves, even though the princess is about to offer him like everything that he could ever ask for. He just needs to get to this damn farmer's market. So he goes. Now the princess, she follows him. She wants him to be part of the, I don't know, the knights or whatever. And he says, no, I really don't want to. I don't want to work for you. I just want to farm. That's all I want in life is to farm. So stop bothering me. And so she won't. She's not giving up on him. So eventually she says, okay, how about this? We will give you like a ton of acreage on the royal property and you can farm it. And he's like, oh, okay. And so he takes the farmland in exchange to joining the guild. So he does that, but then he realizes that the farmland he is given is complete wasteland. So he's pissed about that. But even so, the first episode I kind of thought was hilarious because here he is, like he's driving his carriage full of food through the forest, and then all of a sudden here's this giant dragon, this really dangerous dragon that is like giving this one group of adventurers a hard time. And then all of a sudden he comes across Aruvane, and he notices the dragon, and he's eating one of his carrots at this time. And so he's like, "Oh my god!" And then he throws the carrot, and it explodes the dragon, and it's amazing. But I should also mention that this show has absolutely terrible effects, and they take every opportunity to show you how bad it is. Like, the first thing you see in the show is a terrible CGI dragon. That's the first scene in a fight against this dragon. And then they show you a few other examples of terrible animation. And then the first scene of the second episode is a sweeping shot through the village that is just totally unnecessary and just only gives you more reason to remember how bad the animation is. So they just find every opportunity to remind you of that. Honestly, the first episode is pretty funny to me. I kind of enjoyed it, actually, but it is rife with generics and things you've already seen, and I'm pretty sure that first episode's just going to be good as a group watch with a couple of drinks, and I recommend it for that, but other than that, it's a fail. Sorry.
And what fail drop would you like for that? Just anyone?
Can we have the new?
Do you want the new one?
Fail drop? Yes,
new one?
Please.
All right, debuting for the first time, and created like an hour ago. Let's see if this works. My computer is just struggling so hard right now. I was surrounded by the suck.
That's it.
There you go.
Surrounded by the suck. Nice job.
And what show is that again, just for the people in the back?
I'm gonna have to take a breath for this one. I've somehow gotten stronger when I improved my farm-related skills.
And what was the main character's name? Because I do want to hear you say it one more time.
Aruvane.
Thank you.
All right, what do you want to talk about?
The first show I want to talk about is My Master Has No Tail, or Uchi no Shisho wa Shippoganai. This is done by Linden Films. It's on High Dive, and it's based on a manga. And this is a very simple story of a tanuki named Mameda, and a tanuki, or a Japanese raccoon dog, is like a real species. They do exist, and they're often portrayed in folklore and culture as like mischievous, shape-shifting pranksters. They're just there to mess up with people, get a laugh out of them, and like not do too much damage. And here Mameda is trying to fulfill her inner tanuki spirit by tricking humans with her antics. But the problem is that now we're in the 1900s, and humans are a little bit smarter than they were back when tanukis were all the rage. So all her tricks just don't work because we've made all these technological and scientific progress that kind of befuddles her, and so her tricks just don't land. So she's all bummed out, she's moping around, she's like, man, I can't trick these humans, I'm never gonna be a great tanuki like my dad. What am I gonna do? What's the point of a tanuki if we're not like tricking people? And she stumbles upon a performance of rakugo, which we talked about earlier, is the traditional Japanese art of telling stories and kind of pulling the crowd into this elaborate setting with very simple props. And she sees this performance, she's like, wow, this person is so good at like tricking all these humans into envisioning this grand world. Like, I want to be a rakugo performer, so that's like in a way tricking people. So we got this tanuki set up with this like supernatural thing mixed with telling rakugo stories, and I'm a fan of both of those works, and I could see them mixing together really well, and I was very looking forward to this show. And for a show about the enduring drive and timeless nature of tanuki, and being all tricky and subtle and clever, it's really such a predictable show that plays it so safe that it's kind of boring. Like, the colors are bright and the designs are solid, but the it's not enough to distract you from the fact that the world is flat. It's simple. The characters aren't really that charming or compelling, and while they're not like outright unbearable or irritating, there just isn't much substance to the show. And that's can kind of be said about the visuals, the music, the plot, the Rakugo performances themselves, which are kind of lackluster. Like, the show feels very much targeted towards a younger audience, especially with all the flashbacks and hammering on of like, here's our main character. She wants to trick humans, but she's having trouble. But she really wants to trick them, so she's going to do this because she's having trouble tricking the humans. And it's just a little too in its own rut. So I will be failing. My Master Has No Tail. It's not an abysmal show, but there just isn't enough to satisfy me. So we will also fail this one.
That is one big pile of shit.
So there we go. What is next?
Well, it's Do It Yourself,
Ooh.
which is as
The
you
main,
could probably...
What's the main character's name of this one? I'm kidding.
Yeah, so it's a big reveal in
Wow,
the,
it's so
in the
good.
first episode that when they say the DIY, do it yourself, when they say it in Japanese, it's do it yourself. And guess what the main character's name is? Yourself. Serifu is what they call her. So that's a big, like, not only did they just make that joke in the first episode, it carries on to the second episode. Like, this girl is just so jazzed that she has joined a DIY club that contains her name. She just cannot contain herself. She was so happy. So let's backtrack a little bit. Do It Yourself is, if you look up any, promotional art for it, it is a cute girls doing cute things kind of show. But it seems like a really fun little idea where we have a group of girls in a do-it-yourself club in school. Yes, it's another club show. But the idea of a DIY club is very fun because they have a whole world of projects that they can do, and they just find very simple ways of doing it that even a regular person without that much background can figure out. So they want to make a new sign for the club. They have a random box of tiles at their disposal. So one girl puts her artistic skills at work and she makes this mosaic for the club sign, which is great. They have a box of skis. And this one girl, the main character, Yuasarufu, she wants to make a bench because her childhood friend and her, they used to play on the bench as they were kids, and she wants to regain those days because they've kind of, grown apart. So she wants to build a bench for her. So they have a box of skis. They make a bench out of the skis, which is a great idea. So just like a lot of ideas that can be applied to real life, it's like a Pinterest for anime. But there's a lot more to the show as well. Like the background of the premise of this world, in fact, is coming into play here. Because this world, while it looks pretty normal, like every day, it's actually just a little bit more technological advanced than nowadays. Like you can see this is probably like in the near future, like maybe within the next decade, this is what Japan could look like with a bunch of drones flying in the sky, doing deliveries, this is a very casual thing. It's something that is just normal for everyone. Like they don't have like holographic touchscreens or anything like that, but it's certainly a little bit more technological advanced. This is just normal life for them.
It kind of felt like sorry to interrupt. It felt like a 10 years in the future version of Azokin. Sort of like setting. Yes.
That is a good comparison. And it actually kind of plays into the dynamics between Yua Serufu and her childhood friend because they have grown apart. Her childhood friend has grown into a tsundere friend, which is an interesting dynamic for a friend. So she, for whatever reason, she wants to be around Serufu, but also not. It's kind of a strange dynamic that they have nowadays. They're neighbors, so they talk often through their windows and all that. And she got accepted to this very prestigious school where she's learning, like 3D printing and the Azokin 10 years into the future kind of things. Like she's learning all of these amazing skills. And she's on a high horse. Like she wanted Serafu to be in the school with her, but Serafu is a bit of an airhead, actually the biggest airhead there ever was, and she did not get in.
She's essentially a hot air balloon.
Yeah, she's the biggest hot air balloon. But she did get into a much less prestigious school that is somehow within the prestigious school. They kind of share property, but it's like a much more normal classroom environment. And she comes across the do-it-yourself club, and she decides that she wants to join, despite the fact that she's the biggest accident-prone girl that there ever was. And yet they want to hand her a saw, which is not a good idea. But she wants to join. She's trying to help save the DIY club, as you do in any club show. But it's an interesting dynamic that is being played into this very unassuming looking show. It's a very interesting art style. You didn't really think that anything would really happen inside the show, but it's an interesting dynamic that they have when you have this scientifically progressed world where there are drones flying all over the place, and her childhood best friend is like rubbing in her face that she's learning all this cool stuff. Why are you playing in the dirt, making a bench, when you could just buy one from the store? But Serafu is just so engrossed in the fact that you can just make things yourself and the different projects that she can create for herself. So in the backdrop of this technologically advanced world, they really didn't need to do that. They didn't need to have this whole backstory to the world and have this dynamic going, but it's an interesting choice. That being said, Serafu is annoying to me. I don't like her. I don't like Puri neither, her childhood friend. She's annoying in a different kind of way. The other characters are pretty good, like the friends that she makes in this club. And overall, I think I will continue this show. But unfortunately, I don't think it has enough compared to the other shows on my roster to make a better review. So that being said, I would highly recommend you check it out. And I wouldn't mind doing a review on it, but it would have to pass for listener choice. So unfortunately, Do It Yourself has failed.
Man, I wasn't sure where this was going the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
So
I didn't write my notes down, so I kind of went all over the place with that.
Caroline is pulling off big energy with this one.
But there's also a pig, like a pet pig that she has.
Yeah.
And literally every single meal, they have pork.
Yep,
And
it's
this
so cute.
pig
It's
is
just
just
crying.
cowering in this. It's just, there's a lot of interesting choices in the show that they did not have to make to elevate it being a cute girls doing cute things. There's so many things that they did not have to do, but they did anyway, which I appreciate.
Yeah, I didn't mind a little bit of it that I watched. I would be curious if the listeners love it enough to bring it back. I don't know. I think
There's
the
a bit
season
of
is
talk
pretty
about
stacked.
it on it is very stacked, but there has been talk about it on our Discord, so I wouldn't be surprised if it grew a pretty decent enough following for it.
Yeah. Well, let's see what other shows we give them to chew on. My next review, or impression, I should say, is Bocchi the Rock. This is done by Studio Cloverworks on Crunchyroll, and it's based on a manga. And I'm going to try to talk about this show without mentioning K-On! This is an impossible challenge, okay? So wish me luck. So this show is kind of like K-On! Fuck. Okay. This show is essentially K-On! Plus Comic Girls plus Hitori Bocchi. Not just because it has Bocchi in the name, but just also stylistically. So the show of Bocchi the Rock tells the story of a crushingly shy girl named Hitori who picks up playing guitar with the intent of transforming her life of solitude. She's kind of a outcast, a loner, and she's like, oh, if I learn to play guitar, I will gain these skills, these confidence, I'll be in a band, I will, change my life, turn it around. And she works hard at mastering the instrument. But the same effort really isn't applied towards coming out of her shell. And after 3 years of waiting around, she's really good at ripping and shredding on the guitar, but she doesn't go anywhere, and she's still kind of a shut-in. But one day, she is like, I gotta put myself out there. So she walks into school, she's got her guitar on her back, and she expects all the people to be like, oh, cool, guitar, and start the conversation. Nope, nothing. She just is completely ignored, and she's like, wah, 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 sad, sad, sad. But as she's heading home and wallowing in her sadness, she is pulled in by this very Genki, energetic girl who is like, hey, I'm in a band, we need a fill-in guitarist. Essentially everything she wanted to happen, and she gets hooked, and she now kind of is in a band, sort of, and realize that playing music is more than just physically playing music. It involves a lot of verbal and nonverbal communication, raising of funds, social outreach, all the kind of things that Hitori will have to overcome to keep her dream of being a guitar player in a band alive. So yes, the show is a slice of life of the cute girls doing cute thing variety, but first and foremost, the show is a comedy, with a lot of the humor driven from Hitori's inner monologue in the various stylings that Cloverworks Studio is doing, and they are on point with it. It is all over the place, and it is wacky, but it looks so good and cohesive despite the various art styles they're going into. And a lot of the jokes kind of derive from her social ineptitude and anxiety and her outcast nature, but the fact that Hitori, like, acknowledges these shortcomings and she's, like, trying to change it makes the jokes not feel, like, mean-spirited. It's not, like, the fact that she's struggling that's the joke, it's how she kind of views them that makes it feel okay to laugh, and why you do, because it is a genuinely funny show. And hopefully we see her transformation through the show and getting over these hurdles, and it's a uplifting comedy and band all at once. So the music seems decent enough. There hasn't been a ton in these initial episodes, but I will say, compared to K-On!, damn it, Bocchi's off to a stronger start, because K-On! Kind of was irritating to me. Despite the fact that I love that show, the main character was just kind of like not really vibing with me, and it kind of had to grow into what it became. I think Bocchi is just really visually stunning. The characters are kind of fun and compelling, and as long as you go in with it knowing that it's very much comedy based, and comedy is not for everybody, I'm hoping that it can continue in the same vein. But I think Bocchi has a chance to kind of not be the K-On! In the shadows. It can be its own show and be loved. And while this show is not a must-watch for everyone, Mitz isn't here to stop me from passing something Moe adjacent. So we will be passing Bocchi the Rock, if this drop plays.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
So yeah, I just like Cloverworks. I like how their shows look and feel, and I hope that this continues to hit all the right notes.
All right. Well, on the last show of I'm really bad at talking today, and that just accumulated into that. On the last show of my list, we have I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss. Now, as a person who has talked quite a bit about the other Villainous show, I felt like it was very appropriate for me to take this show onto my impressions list. And there are a lot of comparisons I can draw between the two of them. For one thing, this is a show where a girl dies and gets transported into her favorite Otome game. The one thing that's different about that is the fact that in the first villain, I keep on saying the first, but the titles are just so similar. My Next Life is a Villainess, that first one. They do kind of put a little bit more time into the fact that she was once a girl in real life and then sucked into an Otome game. In this show, it is so quick. It's blink and you miss it. The scenes where she's in a hospital bed, she dies, and she goes into this Otome game. It is very fast. And they don't really spend a lot of time with that. But this show is about the Villainess in this Otome game. Her name's Eileen, and now that she has the memories of a girl that played this Otome game, she remembers, oh shit, I'm gonna die in like every single part of this game.
Oh damn.
And well, like the first scene is her in this ballroom environment where her current fiance breaks up with her in public. And this just starts off like wildly. The fact that this girl gets her engagement broken up that publicly, and he professes his love to the heroine of the game. And now he's the prince, and she has been trying her entire life to prepare to be the empress of this empire, and here she is being broken up with in public for the heroine. Now, another major difference between this show and My Next Life is a Villainess is that you can kind of feel the villainess qualities in her still. Like with Katarina, she is Baccarina. She is complete cinnamon roll sweetness. Everyone loves her. In this show, not everyone likes Eileen, and you can see why. She can be a bit evil. Like, she can talk a bit evil, looks not as sweet as Katarina, which I appreciate. But all in all, she is a good person. And here she is just being treated like absolute garbage by her former fiance. And, well, the heroine puts on a air of goodness, but it's kind of being implied that she's not good. So with that, the villainess is distraught and doesn't know what to do except, I am going to tame the final boss, because in every ending of this game, I'm going to be killed by the final boss, like, indirectly. So what's one thing that I can do? I can form a relationship with the final boss and, make sure I don't die. And it just so happens the final boss is the Demon Lord and the older brother of the fiance.
Ooh.
So, yeah,
Scandalous.
get some dramatics here. And he's handsome AF. So she goes, they form a bond. I'm not entirely certain how, that was a little bit confusing to me, because I wasn't entirely sure why he started feeling affections for her, because initially he was pretty, pretty blasé about it. Like, he didn't really care all that much. But then all of a sudden he shows affections for her, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure where that came from, but I don't know. It's not a major thing. Anywho, they are cute, and it is my guilty pleasure of shoujo romance and all that. And this one is not a harem compared to My Next Life as Villainess, so that's also a plus. I mean, like, not that I like that. I like that there are some differences between this one and that one. All in all, I'm interested in the show. I like, again, my guilty pleasures, and I think it's pretty fun. There was another thing I wanted to say that I totally forgot about.
I stopped listening after you stopped talking about cinnamon rolls.
Oh my god, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Characters, animation, studio, where is it streaming?
Oh, I remember.
Nice.
So as much as I find them to be kind of cute, the final boss is interesting with a couple of his desires for this relationship. In fact, in several occasions, he says, I want to see you cry to Eileen, because her character is that she is very headstrong and doesn't really get down in the dumps all that often. Like,
Gotcha.
she finds, like, she's a strong enough person to not cry. So he says on several occasions, I want to see you cry. I'm like, that is not a good desire to have for.
Well, I just want to see her
relationship.
emotions. I just want to break this woman. And it's like, okay, buddy.
Okay, like, you could say, like, I want to break down your walls. That is a better way to think about it, but to specifically say, I want to see you cry more than once is a little bit of a gigantic red flag. But other than that, they are cute enough. So I will continue watching it. But again, I feel like there are many other great things on my list that I want to pass. So I'm going to have to, unfortunately, fail I'm the Villainess, so I'm taming the final boss.
How harsh of a drop?
Not too harsh, like a 50-50.
Okay.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
This is a
Shame.
good sign, though.
Shame.
Oh, but I will say this, because her new fiance is her old fiance's brother, and because the old fiance is such an asshole, it makes for a fantastic revenge scene where he breaks up with her, but now she's together with his brother. And one of the things in his past that he told Eileen about is how he's so upset to be always compared to his older brother. So the mere fact that she went to him for revenge, it's perfect.
It is kind of like promising, though, that you've had 3 shows, none of which are abysmal. You're like, it's pretty solid, just not quite my thing.
OP Farmer is pretty abysmal. It's just the memes. It's the jokes. The first episode you can laugh at, maybe not in all the ways that you should be, but it's overall not all that great. But do it yourself, and yeah.
You've presented them as all being like solid enough to be maybe okay if this is your kind of show. Like this season is just gonna be full of really good shows that we're just gonna.
I really don't want OP Farmer to be the show.
It's not.
I mean, do it yourself or Villainous. I'm still gonna be continuing with them, so I would be okay with either of those.
That's
good. But yes, starting off very strong. Most of the shows on my list, I can at least see myself wanting to continue to some degree.
Good. I'll do one more show, and that is my beloved, one of my favorites from a couple years back was Pui Pui Molcar Season 2, quote-unquote, Driving School. And
Yay!
I really do adore this series. Season 1 was an absolute standout, and it told these fantastically stop-motioned, wordless stories that were efficient, enjoyable, and just funny. You could recommend this for someone of any age if they had seen 2 anime or 2000. Like, the show is just fire, and it was so good. And likely I wasn't going to pass this show going in because each runtime is like 3 minutes long. There's not much to dig into, but honestly, this season has just been kind of weak relative. There's a new director, and they're trying to tell more of a through line of a story, and they have more of a team, more of a budget maybe, but it just doesn't result in a positive experience. Like, the magic is just missing, and it started off on the wrong wheel. Maybe there will be a satisfying conclusion. Maybe as you get to it and tell more of the story, it'll be better, but it seems more like more fluffy, cute guinea pig cars, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like it enough, like I'll keep on watching, but like it's not enough where I can exultantly be like, this is amazing, you guys got to check it out. Like, if you didn't like season 1, this isn't going to change your mind. If you like season 1, you already are going to watch this because it's so short. So it's quick, but unfortunately Pui Pui Molcar is just not hitting the same notes for me, so I will be failing it. And my thing was muted, so you couldn't hear that. Let's try this again.
It is a travesty.
There we go. So, we have just gone through 6 shows. Only one of them got the pass, which is Bocchi the Rock. But hey, we've got a couple more episodes ahead of us to figure out our other 8 shows, or at least 5 before we send it out to you guys for the polls. So, stay on the website, AAApodcast.com. Stay tuned to Twitter. Stay tuned to Discord. We'll post that poll so you guys can vote, and we'll give it about a week, and then we'll announce the final 3 shows. So if there's no questions, no more thoughts, I'd say we did it. We did the episode. Thank you again so much, everybody, for listening. Follow us at all the things. Do your Amazon shopping through our links. The reviews, we love them. The Discord, join it. You know it by now. You get all the bonus content if you want to support us. You can just be a really nice person. And I hope everyone is just having a good day, a good week, watching the good shows that are coming out. There's so many good stuff. Oh my goodness, a bunch of positivity. And next week, I don't know, more fall impressions. So we'll see you there. Caroline, anything else?
Oh, nothing much. I think that's it. So let's wish everyone a good week, and we'll see you next week for more impressions, and Mitsugi will be back so we can interrogate him about his Halloween.
No, that's never a good sign.
And next week is our Halloween episode, and my ghosty costume is coming back, baby!
If you have not seen that, it's worth joining the Twitch for that. And if you miss it, it all goes up on YouTube anyway, so you can see it there. But we will.
And you know it's also coming back.
What's that?
The Jelly Bean game.
Oh my goodness, say it isn't.
And next week, it's not just going to be the Jelly Bean game, it's going to be the Candy Corn game.
Oh, geez Louise.
Why do I do this to myself?
Here, your floss. We're getting deep. See you guys next one. Bye.
Bye.